senior leaders are expected to be more transparent, more connecting, and video is the means. Your employees don't want to read a memo from you or see another freaking email come into their inbox. They want to hear you and see you in a video clip. Absolutely. That is the way. My daughter doesn't email. She sure isn't going to be doing it by the time in another 6 years when she's getting into the workforce. So we need to start adapting, and we can. If I can do it, you can do it.
Hello and welcome back to these conversations about video with different and amazing people that I have met and been lucky enough to meet in the course of my life. But today I am with Gina London. Gina is an Emmy-winning former CNN correspondent and anchor. She has clients in 5 continents and guides the top companies and executives in the world to more positively connect and engage with their employees, their brand, and themselves. A published author and regular media and analyst, I always have to really think about that word, Gina has appeared on BBC, Fox, and CNN. She has been featured in Fast Company and interviewed on radio and TV across the world, from New Zealand, Europe, Africa, and the US. She currently writes the business leadership column The Communicator in Ireland's largest circulated newspaper, The Sunday Independent. And she provides interactive and motivational keynote speeches on the power of communicating with purpose and impact. And I have seen her in action doing this. I first met Gina in March 2020, right before what seemed like the world just completely shut down. It felt like the day before that happened.
It was the last in-person conference that I did before pandemic. I mean, Judy.
And we did not think that at the time. Sure, we didn't. No. So she was backstage in Cork Opera House getting ready to host a full day event, packed. Now, this day was big. It had so many interviews and panel discussions. And like, if I was Gina, in Gina's position, I would be like completely panicked in a room and I'd be like, everybody leave me alone. I'd be having my diva moment and I'd be like, I need time to think and stuff. But I asked Gina if she wouldn't mind doing a quick interview with me and she said, absolutely. And like that almost. And that is just how she comes across. And immediately I loved her. She was so present, enthusiastic, and most of all, authentic. And authenticity is a big thing about what Gina teaches. But what really took me, Gina, was when we were talking afterwards, you said to me, if you ever need help with anything, just let me know. And I was like, what a thing to say to someone like that you've just met. And I was like, do you say this to everyone? And then if you do, how do you have time to actually, help people who actually come with you and say, you've said that I could get help off you there. And, and then anyway, 2 years later, here we are. I asked you for help and asked you if you wouldn't mind.
And I remembered you right away, and I'm happy to be here. Really, truly, really, truly.
Amazing. It's and that is a long introduction, but your history, and that hasn't even gone into your backstory, which is fascinating. Growing up in Farmland, Indiana, and if anyone has the time after this, go and look at some of Gina's backstory, and hopefully we'll hear more.
Yeah,
about
Google it, because Farmland's really a town, folks. It's not just the descriptor of the area. There's a tiny little village hamlet in the crossroads of State Road 32 and Highway 1 in Midwest Indiana called Farmland. Tallest building is the grain elevator, and that is where I grew up. And I actually went back for the first time since I graduated, which I won't tell you when that was, last summer, when my first trip back to see my family. They don't live there anymore, so I had to make the pilgrimage, though, with my daughter to let her see this is the town that I grew up in. And that's, I think, all about saying to anybody that no matter where you come from, that you can hold on to some of those values that formed you, but you can also dream big and go to any place really that you put that work to and have the right opportunities. And so for a kid from Farmland, Indiana, to become a CNN White House correspondent and then live and have a business now located in Dublin, where I'm able to serve clients all over the world. And who knows what's ahead? I mean, it really is an exciting, and I hope motivational story for others as well, because if I can do it, anybody can do it.
And, like back to that day when I met you and you offered me help, like it's something that I struggle with, Gina. Like I felt, around March 2020, when everyone kind of started moving into video, I was getting WhatsApps and texts and, things from my mom's friends. And businesses that I'd worked with in the past, and and they all needed help, and
Yeah.
I found it quite overwhelming. Because as well, like, I didn't have a price structure at the time. I wasn't charging, so I
Mm.
was spending all of this time, like, replying to people and trying to help people. And obviously, I love helping people and I want to help people, but you kind of sometimes reach a limit. But I don't see you doing that. But do you? Do you just manage it better than I do?
In terms of helping people, well, gosh, couple of thoughts. First of all, I think that what you help people on in terms of setting up their video services, because we are all broadcasters now, even though I had a background in it, I was never the engineer, I was never the satellite truck operator, so I had not set up a studio before, but we realized that we needed to. So I asked for my tech guy to help me set up this room, in the sense that he suggested putting up a logo on what used to be a vanity mirror. And that logo's been up there forever now, it seems like. But back to your point, I try to be strategic about my heart would do what I do for free. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I would still be helping as much as I could to people who want to purposely impact others better and help themselves with confidence and comfort around how they communicate. But I can't do it all. I only have so many hours, like all of us. A good friend of mine who's in the productivity space, Neve Brady, she just put out an Instagram recently saying, when you're asked to do something, don't ask yourself, do I have enough time? Ask yourself, do I have enough energy? And I think that's a real important distinction. So you have to be selective, because you can't do everything for everyone, and you certainly can't do everything for free if you are like I am and you are running your own business. You have to be thinking about what that value is that you bring and not be afraid to call your value. I used to do more things for quote exposure, but is not, if a client's asking me to do something and they're trying to reduce my rate because, "Oh, I'll be doing business development at a conference meeting other people," that's not why I'm there. I'm there to do a particular job, particular add value to that client. That's the value we're speaking of. An indirect benefit, that's secondary, but it doesn't alleviate the price.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's the same. I used to work in the video kind of production, TV kind of film stuff, and it was always like, "Oh, you'll do it for a credit," and the credit was fine for the first 5 times, and then after the fifth time, you're like, "All right, like, I kind of need more than a credit now, to
Yeah,
keep going with
and I
this."
think especially for women, when we talk, I do
Mm.
a lot with leaders, female leaders in particular, on how to ask for a pay rise or how to ask for the equivalent pay that they an understanding that their male colleagues are making, and that still is something that's not always guaranteed. Being able to prepare the words that you're gonna ask, this is critical, I think, before you're in that hot seat interview or that hot seat negotiation with the client. Write down like, your talk track, and then say it out loud as if you're almost role play. If you don't have a coach to help you with this or a friend, I would encourage you to put yourself on camera on your phone and actually imagine that scenario when you're saying, "Here's what this costs," and say the number. A lot of people will stop. They can't, they get nerves in the real middle of trying to negotiate because they haven't practiced it out loud, and that muscle memory clenches up and they can't actually do it. And this might seem very elementary, but so many people do not put that work in and actually muscle memory saying something out loud. Money is a difficult thing to ask about, to talk about, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Amazing, amazing. I actually really want to talk to you offline because, like, I know that you're saying,
You
like, this
can.
stuff. I will. And I will pay you, obviously. But this stuff is stuff that, like, the more that you do speak about, obviously the easier it gets. But you need someone who believes in you, I guess, to speak about it to as well. Like, who, I don't know, who's been in that position before. Not that, my close friends don't believe in me, or my family doesn't. They do, but maybe they'd be like, I don't know if you'd say it like that, and I'd be
Well,
like,
and
no,
they
I
might
think that
not
would
have that professional experience, and this is why it's really important for people to get professional coaches, or people like I wouldn't go to my next door neighbor to help me lift weights. I go to a certified personal trainer, right? So the same
Yeah.
thing, even if your friends are super well meaning, if they don't work in your business or understand some of the type of work that you do, they can be lovely and supportive, but they're not going to necessarily be as strategic in an experiential way that someone else would be in your same professional or sector or industry.
100%. And okay, so just to switch lanes,
Yep.
when I was listening to kind of your history in Farmland, Indiana and stuff, I was like, you know, every little girl's dream is supposedly to have a wedding and be married and stuff. But I think nowadays every girl's dream is to stand up on stage and do a TED talk. I could be wrong, it could be just my dream. But you are just after doing a TEDx talk called The Myth of Authenticity. And I would love to hear all about it. I would love to hear about how you were invited, how you prepared for it, if you were nervous, because you don't appear to be a person that a TED talk would make nervous, but it probably did because it's such a big thing, and how you felt afterwards.
Oh gosh, thank you for that, Judy. In fact, I'm writing. I don't know how the dated this might be. I'm actually writing about that experience for my column this coming Sunday because I've had the pleasure of interviewing a number of major TED speakers. One of them, the head of the longest running study on adult development out of Harvard. It started in 1938. He's the fourth leader. He's not the ongoing leader since they started, but they started in 1938, focusing on a group of Harvard sophomores, one who was even JFK, and took them through a whole list of interviews and questionnaires to try to figure out what is that combination or those keys that lead to longevity and a fulfilled life. And so he's one of the folks I've interviewed along with a couple of other incredible TED speakers. Bob Waldinger is the guy I'm mentioning right now. He has 41 million views. So that's the level of impact these TED Talks can have. So back to your question, I was grateful I was able to give a presentation just earlier this month in March when we're recording this in the UK at a TEDx event. And there is, even though it's been going on for so many years, I think it's a definite bucket list opportunity for anybody. And here's the thing. I was grateful to be I was asked that you could also apply. So here's some of the thoughts. You can apply. You have to go on the TED. You have to I'm not sure how to do that because I didn't do it, but I understand from one of the other fellow speakers, he'd applied 3 times and had been rejected, unfortunately, each time. So I don't know what the criteria is on that. But in 2018, I was speaking at an event in Varna in Bulgaria, and one of the other speakers and I struck up a conversation, and then 18 months ago, in the midst of all of the virtual pandemic work from home stuff, he reached out to me unexpectedly, I might add, and said, "I just got approval to be one of the organizers for a TEDx sanctioned event, and we want you to be you're the first person we're asking." And that was really humbling and overwhelming, and frankly, Judy, I said yes, sort of thinking 18 months, it's so long ago, I didn't really think about so fast forward to 2 weeks before it was the last week in February, I went to Phoenix and facilitated my first in-person conference in Phoenix since the time that we met in March 2020 in Cork, so imagine. There were incredible speakers and the people that I'm mentioning right now I'm gonna be doing for my series in the Sunday Independent were on this stage. I was the MC, and these were some of their keynote speakers. So I befriended them, and one of the women in particular, neuroscientist out of New York, she said to me I said, "I'm gonna be doing my first TEDx," and she says, "You know, I used a TED coach." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to introduce me. I know I'd already sent my script and my slides out to the organizer at this point because you're asked to, they need to have a lot of things in place because it's managed very carefully, I understand, from the TED people. Okay, so quickly, I got that TED coach. I'm so grateful because, like any coach, to have a second pair of eyes on what you're presenting, even if I've presented a lots of things, this was a 18-minute time frame is max. There's that pressure to perform live well because it's you get one and done. So, she helped me, I'm grateful for that. However, then by the time we'd had a couple of sessions, I put the finishing touches on it on a Sunday. I was delivering it on a Wednesday. I would not recommend that to anyone. I arrived at the venue on Monday. Tuesday, thank God, they had rehearsals. I understand from other TED speakers that the organizers don't always provide a day of rehearsals, which I would ask if you ever get to do that. I would ask because that was made all the difference. Standing on that red dot on the stage, this was a theater. Sometimes these TEDx's are in a variety of venues, but the venue was lovely. Standing on that red dot with the sound booth and the camera guys, even though it was just the rehearsal, gives you that shot of adrenaline that helped me know I don't have it. I didn't have it clear. The clicker for the slides wasn't synced properly, and all those little things that could have gone wrong was happening, thankfully, in rehearsal land. So what did I do? I go back and made sure that I spent the time the morning the next day. I didn't go. I would have liked to have gone and supported my other fellow speakers, but I know I needed to be stuck in my hotel room, getting off script and getting that thing down. And here's the point you asked, boy, was I nervous? Yeah, I was really nervous because I was under deadline, which is not how I want to perform. I also was really fighting my fight or flight mentality because I was struggling just to put down the script and keep practicing it and have the energy and know where I'm going to go, the transitions, and 18 minutes pretty memorized in a day or in the morning of. That's a hefty ask. And I kept having to tell myself, I can do this, I can do this. And fast forward, I really nailed it. I'm proud of how I performed, but boy, did I struggle. And it was a reminder of what my clients and other people who wouldn't do this as often go through. So it was humbling. It took a lot of persistence and determination and concentration because I even thought, can I just leave? And will they know? But it was an incredible experience. And quickly, then the myth of authenticity was as you mentioned, was the title of my TEDx talk. And this gets to the crux of this word that you used even in my introduction. What is authenticity? What is an authenticity? We talk about it so much. It's like the buzzword of all buzzwords. And I have some clients who push back when I talk about skills and strategies to adapt to better connect with people. And they say, no, people just need to get to know the real me because that's my authentic me. And my push on that is authenticity, actually, as defined by psychologists, is the degree to which a person's actions consistently connect with their desires and their internal values. So that actually is a call for us to grow and develop to be more purposeful and mindful about how we show respect and how we value other people, as opposed to being a pinball in a pinball machine and just going, this is who I am. I'm just reacting to everything. So that's what I call the myth of authenticity. It's not take me or leave me. It's I'm going to take more control of myself so you don't leave me.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of my favorite quotes, I think I heard it when I was about 17. It was like, your life is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. If your life isn't awesome, then you're watering the weeds. And it's like all about like feeding, and I totally get what you mean. It's like if you understand your purpose, it's so much easier as well to be authentic, and things will kind of generally work out. I find my issue is taking the time to actually reflect and write. I think I need to do more of that because, life is so busy. I just kind of seem to get carried away. And then I'm like, what is my purpose? Hold on a second. And then it can be difficult to be authentic because you're kind of a pinball, like you said earlier, kind of bouncing from thing to thing going, what am I actually trying to do here?
Yeah. I mean, well, this is the thing. I mean, we only get, we all know this is, there's no rehearsal in life. This is it. Right. And
Yeah.
so as much as we can try to reset and remind ourselves to be mindful, remind ourselves to control our thoughts. I struggle with it. I definitely am not someone who's found nirvana and I'm brilliantly happy every second of the day. As a business owner, I struggle with thinking about projections and thinking about sales and thinking about serving clients and all that kind of stuff. But as much as we can, I'm a big fan and an advocate of journaling to get fragments out of our heads and
Mhm.
down to real thoughts that we can reflect on, like you said, or that we can maybe minimize their impact, because they're oftentimes it's just these little fragments of emotions that are in our heads. When we take time to write it down, we can examine it a little more objectively and interrogate the reality of, is it really true or not true? And then same thing with defining your purpose. We can have different purposes at different times in our life, and that's okay. But the more we can identify it, the more that we can work toward striving it, and we can try to lead a life moment by moment that is connected to that. And I think
Yeah.
that takes effort, takes awareness that we can do it, takes desire that we want to do it, and then it takes the discipline, which again can be resetting every couple of hours. It's okay. But to know that that is a discipline that we can, it's available for everybody, but we have to take it on board ourselves. It's not going to happen if we're sitting and waiting and hoping for someone else to do it for us. Unfortunately, we get out of it what we put into it. And I did not want to put the work in to that TED talk because I was emotionally jangled, but I did it. And that's where discipline comes in. And boy, the sense of reward I felt on the backside of that, I may never get 1 million views, let alone 41 million views, but I did do it. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity and I did do it. And I was proud of
I
myself. So,
love it.
yay.
I spoke at one big conference, and I remember being like looking in the mirror in the hotel room before I was about to go out, and I was looking in the mirror, and I was like, "You can just leave. Just leave. Just get in the car. Nobody will even relate. You just say that you got sick all of a sudden and just leave." And I was like, really like, yeah, it's an option. I think once I kind of like realized that it was an option that I could leave, then I was like, nah, you can't miss this. You have to stay. But like having that. D- Decision, being able to make that decision on my own, knowing that you weren't like shotgunned into it, I was like, okay, this actually made it kind of
And how'd
easier
you
to do.
feel after it was over?
Oh my god, it was the best experience of my life. Like I was like I couldn't see you shaking. I couldn't see you being visibly nervous. I think I was visibly nervous, but
Okay.
I kind of after about 5 minutes kind of came out of it and then did well in the last 5 minutes.
Well, and what's great about this is we're talking about this, um, the idea that everybody has a first time, right? And so my first time that I ever did a live presentation was actually on camera for the ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C., live shot. I mean, I would wish that on nobody. Because by the way, I'm grateful mine that happened before there was YouTube, because that was a debacle. It was I thank God I've never seen it again. I certainly didn't go back the next morning and watch it in the newsroom on playback, but I know that I was losing my train of thought. I wasn't concise. I finally had I don't even know what I said, but I finally had an editor or the producer in my ear back in the control room said, and with this kind of sound, just rap. I mean,
Oh
it
my god.
was all, and I was so embarrassed. And the satellite truck driver, as we were going back to the newsroom afterwards, he says, "It's your first time." I mean, that's all he would say. He didn't give me like, "Oh, it was okay," or "It was your first time." I mean, I was really lucky that it was my first time in a top 10 market. I never should have done that. And then when I didn't want to go back to the newsroom the next morning. I thought, I am not, I was a full-time writer. I was getting an opportunity to do this. And I thought, I am so done. There is never going to be a second opportunity. And I will never forget Gary Wardlaw, the news director at the ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C., met me in the hallway, like just my luck. There he is. And he looked at me and said, "You got discombobulated. You'll do better the next time." And darn it, wasn't that, he could have said, "Yeah, no way, not on my station." But I think about that for my clients and for you too. Maybe you were visibly nervous. Maybe you didn't do the best talk of your whole life, but you did it, and you'll be better the next time. And that level of encouragement, I think, is so important. This earth didn't open up and swallow you whole, and people didn't throw tomatoes at you and go running out. You get through it, and then you
Yeah.
do better the next time, and that gives you more strength to know you can, which is great.
Oh, I want to talk to you about so many different things, but I will stick to our kind of outline because I do want to go on to the short form content.
Okay.
Like, what a jump for you from anchoring CNN to now creating portrait videos in Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. Like it's been a jump for me, but like going from that level of like, professional broadcast to now, having your phone on a tripod potentially, in your house, and everyone has to move with it. But how do you approach this type of content versus more of the longer form landscape content that we're used to? And do you enjoy it, or do you prefer having more time to speak?
Yeah, the last question first. I didn't enjoy it initially. I didn't want to do it initially. I was reluctant. I think I was a little bit of a, I want my lighting, I want my sound guy, I want my, where's my producer, my tech team kind of approach. I was a bit of a snob. And then, of course, lockdown came, and I wasn't getting asked to go do things in person. And I was trying to create a new connection with people through the tools that I had. And so, first of all, I realized, well, what one way to make myself, frankly, feel more connected to people is to do a little video every day. I did as much for me as for other people. I started putting them on LinkedIn and Facebook and over on Instagram. And what other, I didn't have a ring light or anything. I'm not an influencer. And so I did, like you said, I just held up my phone right in front of my face with natural light. Are you kidding me? Didn't have any, there were no soft boxes or what? And I just talked from the heart. And that started, people would say, "Oh, I watched it," especially during lockdown, severe lockdown, those first 5 months or so. And then, of course, you get more comfortable with it. You feel more at ease. You realize, okay, the reel, I've got to stop at 55 seconds. I'm not doing editing. I'm not making post production TikToky. I don't know how to do filters. My daughter will laugh at me because she can edit a TikTok. She's 14 in like 2 seconds. I mean, the snaps that go out every day to her hundreds of friends on Snapchat blows my mind. I'm never going to be that person, but I am now more comfortable, and I'm grateful that we can still evolve and get more comfortable. And of course, I'm driven by communicating and connecting. So where are people connecting? Well, they're doing it. One of the ways is through this. So I did it because I had to. I'm more comfortable with it now. I never would have thought I'd have put up a handheld little phone video on LinkedIn, professional site of all professional sites. But it's all evolved now. People are doing that. LinkedIn in the last two plus just a few over 2 years has dramatically changed in the kind of content people are putting on, professionals are putting on. I find it's been actually a really interesting evolution. Are they still professional? Yes, but they've also blended in that personal in a way that
Hmm.
I find much more, of course, connecting. And that's been, I think, one of the silver linings of this pandemic is that people have absolutely gotten more comfortable with bringing their backgrounds, not virtual but real, into, they're taking more pride of how to can make a little dedicated spot. They're getting more accustomed to, still you need to be have a certain level of, I think, polish or a certain level of warmth, not waking up out of bed and just saying, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I think there are still some levels of, you want to feel that that person is someone that you want to trust and that you want to have some credibility from. And so I think there's still layers to that, but I like how it's become more personal. And so I have embraced it. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest thing for me has been to finding the style. of my TikToks so that I can actually make them quick and trust that I like how they're going to turn out. Like you said, like I have tried the ones where like, hey, just woke up here holding the phone. Like I know that I'm grainy in I have to be in front of a window. I'm not in front of a window. If you're trying to be, and like you're trying this thing where it's like super authentic, but like that's not my style at all. And it's taken me a while to find my style. It's still produced and I'm still editing, but I'm just doing it in a different way. But then I think if my target audience was like, say I was a mother of young kids and I was selling some other thing, like then you could have, the messy hair and be in the dark room and have like, the madness behind you, because that would suit the kind of thing that you're talking about. But I suppose when you're giving video tips, or for you, when you're giving communication tips, like I loved your set actually, Gina. I remember seeing it. And I actually wanted to reach out because I was like, how is this happening in the background? Where did this come from? Where is she? What is this?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to hear a little bit more
Well, you
about it
make
now.
choices. Well, okay, but so back to the thing about knowing your audience. Absolutely. I mean, you're right. For the haughty Instagrammers and TikTokers, they're doing all sort of, body conscious stuff, and that's their audience. And so that's a whole different genre. For the harried moms or the keep it real, whatever your persona is, then you're going to be doing a whole different thing. But what's great about both of us, for example, is we started. And so I think we're still evolving into what works best, what's the content that works best, what's the look that works best, and it might be a mix, and what's our vocal energy, because of course we have to understand that how do we communicate? It's appearance,
Yes.
it's the body language, and it's our vocal variety, the tone, the pacing, the energy, all of those things. So once we start to get into that rhythm, we start to develop more comfort around particular topics or particular looks or particular energy levels, or the way that we communicate. But for me, I think initially when we were doing lockdown and videos, I was coming from any place and I was talking to clients maybe from my kitchen table, but I didn't have a dedicated space. So the first evolution was, let's get a place where even if I'm working downstairs, if I'm working downstairs, I've got a meeting, I come and put the laptop on what used to be a bookcase in one half of my bedroom. That's where we're coming live right now. That used to be a mirror, as I mentioned, and now it's got a foam core logo that was put up with glorious, glamorous blue tack. I mean, that's the technology, folks. And yeah, and then I used to have clothing in that bureau behind me, and now it's all business supplies. So notebooks and papers and pens and workbooks and whatever. And then there used to be pictures and a lot of sort of clutter on the top, and we try to make it clean so it has a pleasing look. We try to move the angle so that I'm not having antlers coming out of my head from the draperies here. Again, choices. We make choices and we try to make informed choices, because why? We want to better connect. So I made sure there was a light above me so that I'm more evenly lit. I like how I look a lot better in Zoom than in real life. I've realized that I don't see the creases that are really there. And suddenly I'm looking at a regular mirror going, oh shoot, this is not how I really look.
Or you're worried that people are disappointed when they
Oh
meet
yeah,
you
of
in real
course. Like,
life.
oh
And they're like,
gosh, you're so much older in person. Like, yeah, well.
yeah.
But I mean,
Oh,
again, I think again though that there's an evolution of expectations now, and not that we have to not be doing things on our phone, but when we are coming in a screen like this, or we're speaking to doing a podcast, or we're speaking to clients or customers, or even our teams now in business world, there, especially for a leader, there's an expectation that you've got some of this figured out. So if you are forgetting, for example, to close your draperies, if you're using natural light, you're going to suddenly be silhouetted, and that's not connecting with your people if they can't see your face. Or if there's an extreme light source coming in from here and creating this sort of eclipse, dark side of the moon look, also not acceptable anymore. And I think that we should expect that and demand that of our leaders and of ourselves, quite frankly, because
100%.
this
Yeah.
this virtual world, hybrid, is here to stay. We will be absolutely connecting to people virtually around the world, which is lovely in this way. Over time, if we can meet people in person, fantastic. If we're local, we can meet people with in person first, and then we can have a virtual meeting subsequently. There's going to be that mix, but it will be here. So if you haven't figured it out yet, there's still time. It's not too late, but it's not too soon either. Get going.
I like that. I really like that because yeah, one of the first videos I made in lockdown was 10 steps for filming yourself with
Okay.
your iPhone. And the first thing I said was, people are not expecting perfection right now. You've got loads of time to make mistakes. And I watched that video back and I was like, I wonder when that time is actually going to run out. So like you said, it's not too late, but it's not too early either.
Yes.
So go
Yeah, it
work
never
on
has to
that.
be perfection, but it does have to be progression. And I think there's time
Yes.
to have made some progression at this point.
100%. And tell me, do you know, because the other day I spent a lot of time, I have an amazing intern, her name is Aoife, and we came into my house and we did a whiteboard session trying to kind of plan out some content for TikTok over the
Mhm.
next kind of year. And it was really exciting because, if I'm able to plan out my TikTok content and then actually make the TikTok content, then I can make a course to teach others how to make TikTok
Yeah.
content. But I have to go through the process myself. I can't just be watching other people's TikTok content and then be like, this is how you do it. Like I need to trial and test it. But can I ask you, what is your process for planning video content? Or are you just coming up with an idea when you do and kind of just doing it when the motivation kind of gets in?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I
Yeah.
wish I could say that I'm much more structured. I do have a dedicated marketing team. They're based in the US, and I do actually today when we're recording is Wednesday and we meet every Wednesday. And so I get a lot of direction from them saying, "Hey, have you considered this? Why aren't you should be doing this?" So we did a month on self-care, for example, and that was predetermined, editorial calendared, as I say, out. So we knew which segments were going out on which days, and I recorded a whole bunch of them and I sent them over to them and they began to put them on Instagram and whatnot. But also, I do ad hoc. If there's a great interaction that I just had with an executive coaching client or a team that I was working with, and something that they said usually sparks an, "Oh, yeah, I haven't talked about this for a while," or, "Oh, I haven't thought about that for a while," or, "I've never thought about that. Let's share that." Because if it's interesting to my client or to me, I'm sure it's interesting to somebody else out there. So then I don't hesitate to sprinkle out things that I'm thinking of as I'm thinking of them. And that I think is a great mix. So I would say if you are hesitating to start because you don't have everything editorially calendared out, don't do that. But if you are running again like that pinball, I would also say probably wouldn't hurt to do a quick outline. You don't have to script every word, but just
Hmm.
outline some of the topics. Try to build yourself 5 days worth of content and then just go for those 5 days, if that makes sense. Likewise, on my weekly column, again, the blessing and curse of having a weekly column is hey, you've got this profile that you get to populate every week. And then the curse is, of course, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday, it's writing day. What am I gonna do? What do I have in the can? Or what am I thinking of? And I'd love to say, oh yes, I know what I'm writing for in December. I'm not that I'm not that organized. I should be, but I'm not. But a mix of both is helpful. Like you with Aoife, having support or bouncing ideas off of someone helps you be more, I think, responsible around it. So I
Yeah.
think getting out of yourself and getting even just one other person as an advocate or a partner would help make that more real and make that more delegate not delegated, make it more deliberate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the next question is, what is your favorite video that you've ever made and why would it be your favorite video?
Oh, did you ask me these questions in advance and I should have had this prepared? Okay, what's
Not at
my very
all. Not at
favorite
all. No,
video?
no, no. I just sent a few
No,
just to
no,
kind of
you
get
know
you
what?
thinking.
Okay, I do know, and this is real. I probably would have said something different if I weren't doing it off the cuff. I have to confess that sometimes I have used a a video producer, and then he goes back and edits it and makes it, especially for the TikTok series that we did, to have it have those great three little chunks and have the music and have the graphics on there and of course the subtitles. that to me looks slick. It looks pro. It's still real and fun, but that's funkified by somebody else that I'm not good at. So I think though there was one where I did about how do you remember names? And it was a really, really quick one. And he encouraged me. I have a miniature schnauzer named Pepper. And he said, put her in the shot as you introduce the topic, because even just visually seeing a little puppy in the shot is a ploy. And I'm like, oh, I like that. We're not above a hook. And so Pepper was in the shot. And I talked about, hey, here are 3 top ways to get more focus on learning names, and bump, bump, bump. And then we looked down. I said, hi, Pepper. And she looked up and had this little yawn or whatever, which was hysterical because she was apparently bored by my content. And that got a lot of views, and it gave me a lot of pleasure because it was a lot of fun. So I have
I've
to
seen
say,
it
as much
and
as
I
I
loved
like the
it.
heartfelt stuff that I do, if I wanted to watch something again, it's going to have all those other layers around it to make it more energized.
And I saw that video and I actually was wondering, I was like, I wonder, did Gina edit this herself or did she
Heck
get help? But I
no.
knew it was an editor. I could tell that it was someone who was doing this all the time and
Someone
not
who
just,
knows what they're doing, which is not me.
but it wasn't even a TikTok effect style edit. It was a professional edit on TikTok. And I thought that was
Yeah,
really, really
probably
cool.
so. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a lovely number of partners at this point. But yeah, hey, I pay them. They're vendors. They're not just buddies. So
Of
that's why
course.
you
Of
have to
course.
use them intelligently, let's say.
Yeah, and I suppose then that does make sense. Then if you've already figured out that that style is what you like, and then you can plan 10 videos that you record yourself and send it to the person, you can kind of get economies of scale that makes stuff start to actually financially make sense then because the videos are doing so well. So I really love that. And what is your most popular video that you've ever made? And do you pay a lot of attention to metrics and analytics? And if you do you know what your most popular video is?
Great question. My most popular posting actually is not a video right now. It's my most popular analytic wise is a reference to the Dalai Lama and care. And that came at a time where people were, of course, really needing a lot of care. But I do, my marketing team, they do provide me monthly reports on the analytics that I should pay more attention on about. I will say though that my LinkedIn postings on, for example, my it's content driven more than it is visual driven. So I think that might be an important distinction for people who are thinking I need to wait till I have all that gorgeous production before I start doing things. The actual opposite is what I found. It's the topic that's of interest to a wider set of people, and that could be different for depending on who your target markets are, right? For example, my posting and then a little video attached to it about doing my first TED Talk on LinkedIn had over 14,000 views, which may not be giant to some people, but it was pretty significant to me. And I thought, okay, this shows that TED Talks are still of interest and that people were wanting to know more and behind the scenes type of stuff, which is what I provided.
Brilliant. Brilliant. God, 14,000 is amazing. And, and then it does give you direction as well, because then you're like, oh, I'll make another video about that. But then the week later, you're like, I don't want to make a video about that. I want to make a video about this instead. You're like, I'm definitely guided by my own internal narrative as opposed to my strategy. But I do want to test out having that strategy. And I want to see that work because people talk about it working all the time. And
Well,
I just want to
again,
make
the
sure.
metrics are important, but it takes discipline. I mean, let's be honest. Like when you think about who you collectively, not just Judy here and Gina here, but when we think about who is our target audience and what are we doing video for? And we could be honest and say, I'm doing it for practice or for marketing or for just profile or awareness. Where am I converting to sales? And quite honest, for me, LinkedIn right now still proves to be where my clients are coming from. I
Mhm.
do get some B2C clients from Instagram and Facebook. I'm not doing as much with TikTok just because, as I mentioned, I don't have the TikTok vibe down yet. That's my own reticence, as if I don't have Ruslan, my editor, helping me feel groovy, I feel super stupid. And don't forget, I live with a 14-year-old who also reinforces that I'm not TikTok ready. And so that's my own personal hurdle there. I think people like Gary Vee are he already has an incredible following, and he's switched over to TikTok with incredible ease, but he's
Hmm.
already got loads of people in that demographic, and he's B2C for those types of clients. His media company, I don't see it doing TikToks as its own standalone. You see, there's a difference.
There
But
is.
I do love being aware. I think it's important to be aware and explore where you're going to get the most traction. And analytics are, of course, very important to that. Are you doing marketing to convert to sales? Are you doing marketing just for the sake of marketing? Are you exploring which one you prefer? Are you dabbling in all of them for a while? I think all of that is legitimate. Just understand why you're doing it. And we can't be everywhere all the time for all the people. So you have to sort of make some informed decisions, at least for a time, and then maybe explore in other directions.
I 100% agree. And back in the day, you could make a video and you could put it on all of the platforms and be like, oh, I'm great. Nowadays, like, I'm kind of discussing with people about, like, potentially you have one strategy for LinkedIn, like you said, based on who your audience is and where they are. And then maybe you're trying to create awareness, like Gary Vee is with customers on TikTok. So then you're creating different videos for TikTok. You're not just getting the same video and trying to make it work on all of these different platforms. But speaking of your daughter, have you ever uploaded a video but deleted it later because your daughter told you it was terrible and you have to take it down?
No, actually, I never have. What's funny about having teenagers or having a teenager, her friends follow me. Now they're not buying my services or my online learning platform, but they are commenting back to her. And so you got to kind of be aware of the embarrassment factor that you saddle your child with if you're doing like the real goofy stuff, which I'm not, I think, but there are times when on Facebook, I'll do something motivational. And then she will come back to me quoting me, not because she's watched it, but because her friends have watched it and are quoting my lines back to her in class. Not always sure how that lands. I think she loves what I do on some degree, but also is like, oh, here's motivational mom again. And so we have to have that again, the reality check of the hardest audience you're going to have is you've got to be your children and just understanding that. And I don't look for her approval, but I do try to limit her embarrassment.
My mum, when I was younger, used to go around to different schools in my area and speak about her life and kind of addiction within the family thing and stuff like that. And into schools now with my peers in their schools. And it was amazing though, because like people loved it and they were like completely like, inspired by her speech. And she's an amazing speaker as well. But also at the same time, I was like, you're just after telling the whole world about my life here now. So it was bittersweet. But thank God it was pre TikTok and pre social media because if we were back in that time, I can imagine she'd have quite a successful following on those
Yeah.
platforms. As well. A couple more, and then I will let you get on with the rest of your day. But oh yeah, that's actually an interesting one, and it's less to do with now your people you know, but mostly from people you don't know, and receiving negative comments on videos and how you handle them when you do receive them,
Yeah,
if you do receive
that's an excellent question. I think anybody who puts themselves out there, I mean, I would have a little tiny bit of a profile, but there are some people who have extreme profiles, and so then the numbers are exponentially increased of people. And but I think every behind, well, maybe big celebrities that have incredible teams that inoculate them. But let's go back to the real people like you and me. We're human beings. We have feelings. Most of us, unless it feels really disingenuous and super contrived, are sharing from our hearts. And most of the feedback that I've received has been positive on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Facebook, on TikTok too. But I mean, TikTok again for me really has been quite limited. And that you'll get like the little heart or whatever. You don't actually get a comment. And for me, usually, Facebook has been where mean people live. And when I was putting up some videos on my business page, I mean, I don't let obviously my individual Facebook page is for people that I know or have been referred to me. And if I get one weird comment, they're blocked. I don't spend any time saying, please don't, they're gone. But because I'm curating it, I mean, I on my personal one, on my business one, I have my marketing team also curates it, but I look at it, I mean, it's mine. And initially, when I was putting out videos that would talk about I used to work for CNN, I mean, the rabid right, ultra right people in the United States, of course, went just ballistic on that. I mean, curse words. I mean, I'm not averse to swearing, but I would never write it on a public page to someone I don't know ever. And initially, and of course, you can get 12 great things like, oh, yeah, I wanted to. And then one person goes, poof, and you look at it and it's like a sock in the stomach. You think, gosh, I don't know you. You don't know me. You don't know my heart. By the way, you never worked at CNN. You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes there, too. Why would you make an overgeneralization, uninformed comment? Well, of course, because they can hide behind the anonymity, or they don't care, or they don't think of you as a real person, which I think is a lot of what happens.
Mhm.
A couple of times I have taken them on in a nice way. I never badger back because that just ignites the flame more, fans the flame. And a couple of people have backed off, but it's too much. It's too exhausting. So what I have asked my team to do, delete, find them and delete them. Because if it's a real legitimate question, then it's going to be asked in a real legitimate way. If it's just flaming you or trolling you, get them off. It doesn't need to sit there. I've had one person on LinkedIn that I didn't know. LinkedIn is much more professional, so I think there's a little bit more decorum there. They are self-police each other and they just seem to be, again, more professional. One person on LinkedIn made some sort of a negative, snarky, self-promotional, badgery comment. And I wrote to them on a DM. I didn't take them in the thread. I took off the comment, but I went over and found them and read on the message. And this person was very thoughtful and backed off and explained themselves. And I never did any work with them, but I felt much better having taken that on and asking questions and giving them an opportunity to explain themselves, presuming they'd had a bad day. So case by case, yeah, it's tough because we're human. And it's a reminder for us too when we're out there to not do a knee-jerk reaction to something that we don't like on somebody else's video or somebody else's page, because at the end of the day, they are people too. So think before you speak or write.
I agree. I agree. And like as well with people like us who our careers are tied kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm using us. I hate when people us me into their thing. I'm like, well, hold on a second, no, that's you. But we have our careers and our personal life, but they're quite intertwined because it's about,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so then it becomes really like that sock in the stomach. It becomes really personal and you really just have to, and I like the way you're saying to block it, because I've kind of toyed with that. I'm kind of looking at a comment and I'm like, do I delete and block, or is that just like, am I then creating an echo chamber for myself? Then we're only the nice things come in
But
and I'm not
again,
hearing.
it
But then
depends on what the negative comment is. If
yeah,
someone takes you on in a thoughtful way, or has a different perspective, or a different opinion, or a counter argument, it depends on what you post, and it depends on who it is and how they say it.
yeah,
And I think
but they're
that's why it's case by case. But absolutely, if something is, I mean, I get sometimes I've gotten vulgar, inappropriate comments that have nothing to do with my content, and I mean, and I don't put that. I'm not that profile, for heaven's sakes. But all people are out there. Weird people are out there, and I do not engage. I delete and I block, and I don't think about. I'm like, what? Gone, 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 gone. I can't save everybody, and I'm not going to spend the time.
100%. Now, for the people you can save, and that would be for business leaders especially,
Yes.
what would be your top tip for those ones who want to create more video content? Because I feel like they're the ones who are getting left behind, Gina. I feel like the people at the top are the ones that are either expected to know and not getting kind of training in this, or they're the ones that kind of, they're actually kind of, they're like, no, no, I'm an in-person person. I'll
Mm.
just wait until we're
No,
back
no,
in.
100%. No, you executives, leaders, you need to become camera friendly. You need to become more confident and comfortable coming through virtually. Stop reading if you're presenting to your teams. Because if you're doing this, people see it, they check out. You need to not just be camera ready, you also need to have your voice energized. Oh, I do all sorts of training and coaching and development around this because millennials, Gen Ys, everybody, frankly, but especially the younger people you're trying to recruit and retain, they demand that of you. They expect you to come through in what feels authentic and feels sincere. And if you're reading and you're dark and your camera's up like this, all of that says, I'm not connected to you. So get a coach, get some
Brilliant.
training, but you can do it. It's in your grasp. Absolutely, you can do it, and you'll like it. Like you'll feel so much better when you look back at a video and go, ah, I look like I'm listening to that other person. I remember that my camera's still on and I'm not doing this while the other person's talking. How many team meetings have I seen where one exec is talking and the other three senior leaders are like, I mean, it's unbelievable. And you think it's so obvious, but yet it isn't because I see it to this day, 2+ years into pandemic and virtual everything. So again, it's
I
not too late, but it is well time to get with the program. Senior leaders are expected to be more transparent, more connecting, and video is the means. Your employees don't want to read a memo from you or see another freaking email come into their inbox. They want to hear you and see you in a video clip. Absolutely. That is the way. My daughter doesn't email. She sure isn't going to be doing it by the time in another 6 years when she's getting into the workforce. So we need to start adapting, and we can. If I can do it, you can do it.
You're such a great speaker. Like, Gina, this is all the stuff that I know and teach, but like when I hear it back from you, I'm like, now I'm convinced. I know it's true. Like, you just have such a great way of like delivering those messages that like yeah, they're just, it's just so concrete then by just in terms of how you say it, which
Thank
is
you.
amazing, an amazing gift. But what is coming up next for Gina? What's on the cards now for the next few
Oh
months,
gosh, well,
years?
this particular week I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited because I've got my first in-person all-day training session on communications and purposeful leadership with an incredible team here in Ireland and with a videographer coming on board. So we're going to be putting people in person on camera so they can see for themselves what's their
Brilliant.
baseline purpose around how they connect. And they're going to go from pinball to pinball wizard because we're going to make it a really great day. And I'm looking forward to that very much.
Amazing. And do you know, I do find that sometimes people cannot connect with the camera early on. Like not that they can't connect, but they need to read. And I use this app called Teleprompter for video. And what I love about it is it positions the text right next to the screen.
Oh, that's
So
a
or right
great
next to the
idea.
lens. So it actually doesn't look like you're reading. And then it allows some people who are just like who just can't, maybe it's just too early for them and they haven't done enough
Oh,
of kind of
see,
yeah,
wonderful. That's a great. See, this is the reason that we collaborate and share, folks, because I learn all the time. I'm aware those things exist. I've never seen it and I thank you for holding that up to the screen. Because yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I say don't read, but what I mean is don't look like you're reading. If
yeah,
you
that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I know. Yeah. Brilliant. And
excellent.
then
That's a
finally,
great tip.
I know that people are going to be mad to follow you now after this. Where should people go to follow you? I assume it's probably LinkedIn
Yeah,
is the main
you
place.
can find me on Instagram at the Gina London, Twitter on the Gina London, Facebook business page the Gina London. I do have a TikTok page, but folks, it hasn't done anything in a while. But yes, I'm super active on LinkedIn. Absolutely. So that's Gina London over on LinkedIn. But most importantly, if you follow me or connect with me, let me know so we can actually hopefully even get to know each other and I could help you in some way. That really is my heart, to help people feel more confident and more comfortable about how they connect with others and also with yourself. That's really important too.
Gina, I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy. It was really fun.